الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Today inshallah I will talk about Surat Al-Tariq, but before I do, I have to do an introduction to this third group of surahs that we will be talking about inshallah over the next couple of days. So I broke down Juz' Amma for you into 4 groups. It's the final Juz' of the Quran, final cluster. It summarizes all of the basic values and concepts within Islam. Very important, very powerful Juz' to understand and learn. That's why we teach our kids to memorize it early on in life. Hopefully if they learn the meaning of it, then they actually benefit from it. The first group, Naba, Nazi'at and Abas, talked about the 3 pillars of embarking on a religion or taking upon yourself a faith or a belief and what that requires in order for that to work. And then the second group talked about choices, the sanctity of choices, the accountability, the recordance, the consequences, the margin, and the opposite, which is passivity and indifference. And it looked at all this in 5 surahs. And then the third group are the tools, the Islamic tools that you need in order to actually be able to function as a Muslim. There are certain things in life, or certain ways of thought or ways of behavior that are very religious in nature. I mean, they're based on faith. And there are other ways of behavior that are just based on common sense of being a human being. And there are differences. There are things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to tell us about, and things that we can just figure out on our own, that will just come naturally to us as people. And this group of surahs from Al-Tariq, Al-A'la, Al-Ghashiyah, Al-Fajr, Al-Balad, and Al-Shams, and Al-Layl. So all these 7 surahs, each one offers a tool, an Islamic tool, something that you would only know if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you about. Meaning you wouldn't have the ability as a human being to actually just come up with it on your own. Not for lack of intelligence or anything like that. No. It's a religious concept that's being taught. For example, al-ma'ruf wal-munkar are social words. These are social terms. To command al-ma'ruf and to deny munkar. This is a social activity. It's a part of religion, but it's a social activity. Meaning the definition of ma'ruf and definition of munkar aren't religious. On the other hand, the word haram and halal are religious terms. They don't exist outside of faith. If you take faith away, haram and halal leave, and you're left with legal, illegal, or maybe aib or something like that. And these are all fine. Again, these are social terms like aib, and then there are law-based terms, legal terms as legal or illegal. But then there's religious terms like haram and halal. And the 7 tools that Juz' Amma talks about in these group of surahs from Al-Tariq until Al-Layl are religious concepts, things that you would only learn if you believe in a deity. If you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you need to know these things. If you don't believe in Allah, you would never actually come up with them on your own, and they don't really matter to you that much because you don't believe in God to begin with. So these are the stuff we'll be talking about over the next few days inshallah. And they're very interesting, and I've always found them to be not just interesting but extremely effective. Meaning if you learn them and kind of memorize them by heart, the 7 that we talk about throughout these halaqat, and memorize the surahs that they're attached to, and continuously read them and think about them, you will find that there's a change in the way that you perceive the world and the way that you perceive yourself and the way that you actually carry yourself throughout life. And we'll start with the first surah within this group, Surat Al-Tariq. And I'm not talking about the fact that surahs are Makki or Madani, because most of Juz' Amma, if not all of it, is Makki. I'll just point out for you the Madani surahs, the surahs that were not revealed in Mecca, or the surahs that were revealed very late in Mecca. Everything else is an early Makki surah as far as Juz' Amma goes. So he begins Subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he says, وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الطَّارِقِ النَّجْمُ الثَّاقِبِ. So he takes an oath subhanahu wa ta'ala by the skies or the cosmos. And he adds to it, وَالطَّارِقِ. Now the word tariq is a night comer, or someone who comes by night and knocks. That's what a tariq means. It has to be at night, and it has to be someone who's knocking upon. And that's the general usage of the word al-tariq. So he adds subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he says, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الطَّارِقِ. Do you know what a tariq is? And whenever he says it like that, adraka, he's going to tell you. And if he says وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ, he won't tell you. It's just the law and how the Quran works. So if he tells you adraka, you'll find out in a moment, or you already know. So وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الطَّارِقِ. What does al-tariq mean? And he explains subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, النَّجْمُ الثَّاقِبِ, the piercing star. The piercing star. And thaqib is when something penetrates something else and removes the matter within it, meaning it's no longer matter. It was matter, and then it was pierced, and the matter is gone. And now you just have a hole of no matter within it. And that's what النَّجْمُ الثَّاقِبِ means. So, now, why is it that he's saying this, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what could this possibly refer to? Well, Jalla Jalaluhu is taking our attention or asking us to pay attention to a fact that outside of this small atmosphere of a globe that we live in, which is very, very puny and tiny, it is compared to any other planets or other stars or other solar systems or other galaxies. We're pretty small on any scale. And he's saying, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, I swear to you by the heavens, the cosmos, and the piercing star, Al-Tariq. Now the Sahaba, their understanding of that was that this is something that can cause harm. That was their understanding, that there's a star out there that can cause harm. And that's a correct understanding of this wording. But really, we have a better ability to comprehend what he's talking about, Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just knowing that stars have a life cycle. Our star is an old star, the sun. It's at some point going to expand and burn everything and then deplode upon itself again. Don't worry, you have a couple of million years left, so it's not going to happen anytime soon. But that's how this is going to happen. And stars turn into supernovas, and there are stars that are pulsating, and they put out energy that is so heavy, that is so powerful, that not only can it wipe out the life on this planet, it can wipe out the full solar system that we live in. And the more we study astronomy, the more we look into space, we find how small we are and how huge other creations out there are. And what he's saying, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, is, do you even know what Al-Tariq is? How many of you go to sleep worrying about Al-Tariq? Worrying about the piercing star that's going to come and end life on Earth within a couple of seconds and just burn everything. Do you worry about that? No, you don't. Neither do I. But there are so many variables outside this very small environment that we live in that we cannot control, that we do not comprehend, that is beyond our ability to even understand, that is so much more mighty and powerful than we are and ever will be, that our lives are extremely fragile. And that's why the answer to this qasam, like the answer to his oath, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الطَّارِقُ النَّجْمُ الثَّاقِبُ إِن كُلُّ نَفْسٍ لَمَّا عَلَيْهَا حَافِظٌ إِن كُلُّ نَفْسٍ لَمَّا عَلَيْهَا حَافِظٌ. He's saying, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, every soul that was ever created upon it or encompassing it or surrounding it is a protector, a hafiz, something that is preserving it. Someone that is preserving it. Everyone that he created, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, he created to live for a certain period of time. During that period of time, you are preserved. Your life is preserved, you're going to live it. Whenever that period of time that he has, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, runs up or runs out, that preservation, that hifz is taken away, and the person moves on to whatever comes next. In kullu nafsin, every soul, lamma alayha hafiz, but upon it is a preserver or a protector. He's saying, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, you heard about Al-Tariq and what it can do? The piercing, pulsating star, the star that has enough energy in it to burn the full solar system in merely a snap of a finger or a few seconds. Well, why don't you worry then? Well, there's a lot of reasons why you don't worry. But he's saying, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, well, you can worry about a lot of other stuff as well, because that's something that's far away, we don't really think about. But what about the daily variables that we go through? What about the possibility of one day someone just getting very ill? What can stop that? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of you afi, inshaAllah, and a long life, Allahumma ameen, and all those whom you love. But there's nothing that can stop that. Someone can get ill, you can have an accident, something can go wrong. This is how life, there are variables that you can't control. Not only can you not control them for yourself, but you can't control them for your loved ones either. And they're happening all the time, and you see them occurring around you all the time. And it almost makes you start worrying a little bit. I know people who end up becoming quite anxious because of these things. Hypochondriac, or developing compulsive disorders where they can't seem to actually relax because they're never sure what the next bad thing is going to happen. And he says, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this surah, In kullu nafsin lamma alayha hafiz. Indeed, but every soul has someone preserving it. It's being preserved, it's being protected for the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to protect it for. Meaning the moment He doesn't want to protect you, you're going to be affected by whatever is coming your way. So there is no point of wasting any of your energy in the form of worry. So what is the whole point of Surat Al-Tariq? When I gave this, I wanted to explain the first few verses just so you understand. Surat Al-Tariq is the first time the concept of tawakkul was explained without using the word. Without actually saying the word, the concept was clearly explained to the Sahaba. It's an early surah before the whole, after he says Subhanahu wa ta'ala briefly in Surah Al-Muzammil early on, Rabbul Mashriqi wal Maghribi, La ilaha illa huwa fattakhidhu wakila, and that was left. It was just left as a word, and the Sahaba, that's unclear to them in terms of what that means. Again, this is early on. They're just barely grasping some of these basic concepts of Islam. So the word wakila and tawakkul was unclear until Surat Al-Tariq came and started to explain things. Start to explain the basic elements of what it means to have tawakkul. If you learn tawakkul and you're able to practice it, then you've taken the majority of what Islam is. And if you lose tawakkul, really what's left of the deen is very, very little. What's left of Islam out of tawakkul without having it is very little. Very little. And if you have tawakkul, then you have most of what you need. If you understand what it means, you understand how to practice it, and it's a part of your perspective and your mindset. It's extremely important. So he's trying to explain to us this first concept. He's giving us tools. This group of surahs from Tariq to Al-Layl, just a number of Islamic tools. Here are tools you're going to need. Here's your toolkit. You need to have things in it in order for you to actually function as a Muslim. These tools you wouldn't find out unless if God Subhanahu wa ta'ala himself didn't explain them to you. Other things you can pick up on your own, but certain things there has to be faith to tell you about them, and tawakkul is one of them. The first one in this cluster in this group of surahs. And he begins by telling you, I swear to you by this cosmos and the piercing star that can end everything within seconds. Don't worry. In kullu nafsin lamma alayha hafiz. Every soul has yet a provider and a preserver and a protector. And then he says Subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ مِمَّا خُلِقَ خُلِقَ مِنْ مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ يَخْرُجُ مِنْ بَيْنِ الصُّلْبِ وَالتَّرَائِبِ إِنَّهُ عَلَى رَجْعِهِ لَقَادِرٌ يَوْمَ تُبْلَى السَّرَائِرُ فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ قُوَّةٍ وَلَا نَاصِرٍ. He says Subhanahu wa ta'ala made the human being look at his beginnings. Not very highly ranked, is it? From a gushing water that is produced between the backbone and the loins. That's where you come from. Nothing classy. There's no inauguration, festival for your presence coming to this world. It's a very simple beginning, coming from an origin that is actually quite even less than humble. فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ مِمَّا خُلِقَ. What are you really made from? Think of your beginning. We don't do that very often. We don't want to believe that. We don't want to believe it. We just don't seem to understand it, that this is really where I began. I was something very simple. In the loins of both my parents, something very simple, nothing classy about it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought them together. يَخْرُجُ مِنْ بَيْنِ الصُّلْبِ وَالتَّرَائِبِ. And then you grew up and you became the person that you are today, with all of your glory and your might and all of your power and your abilities and all of your intelligence and cognitive powers. All of this is who you are, with your status and with your wealth and with your ability to walk the earth and say what you want and voice an opinion and gather people around you and move things forward and make an impact and make a difference. He says Subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed, إِنَّهُ عَلَى رَجْعِهِ لَقَادِرٌ. And just like you started very simplistically and you were brought forward, you were started very humbly and then brought forward to be this great creation, He will also return you again after you leave. After you die, He'll bring you back the same way. يَوْمَ تُبْلَى السَّرَائِرُ. And on that day, tubla is different than tubtala. Tubtala is for something to be tested. Tubla is for something to be exposed, to be shown. Tubla السَّرَائِرُ. السَّرَائِرُ is everything that is hidden. All that we think about, feel, contemplate, but never actually share verbally, because it's either embarrassing or is very personal, or is something that maybe we should not have been contemplating or thinking about. On that day, all that will be exposed. يَوْمَ تُبْلَى السَّرَائِرُ. When everything that you want to hide, you can't even hide what you want to hide. فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ قُوَّةٍ وَلَا نَاصِرٍ. And on that day, the human being does not have the ability, does not have power, and does not have nusra, does not have anyone to protect them, or to strengthen them, or to stand by them. Referring to the fact that before in dunya they did. See, that day they don't. But in dunya, you had some power. And you had some nusra. You had someone to stand by you. Someone who strengthened you. Someone who granted you something that allowed you to feel a bit powerful in life. And that's how you lived your life. But on the day of judgment, when you come back, that's not going to be the case anymore. You're going to come back, but there's going to be no quwwah. And there's going to be no nasr. And Subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to this transition for us. Within Surat Al-Tariq, after he reminded us that life is very fragile, it can end like that, but you are preserved, so you shouldn't be spending time worrying. However, remind yourself that you started with a very humble beginning that gave you extreme strength, and then you're going to go back again to a humble beginning, but this time with no strength. So use what you have right now. Use the fact that you have some quwwah, you have some nusra, before the day comes where you have neither, where both is taken away from you. And even the ideas that you would prefer to keep hidden, you don't even control those anymore. You can't even control ideas, which right now you do. You think of something, I have no way to know what you're thinking. I have no way. This is something you control fully. Yawm al-Qiyamah, not even that. You can't even control your thought process. What you feel on the inside is going to be exposed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bring it forward here. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yasturana yawm al-Qiyamah. You ask for sitr, that you're not, but it'll be exposed to him at least, and exposed maybe to yourself. Then he says subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الرَّجْعِ وَالْأَرْضِ ذَاتِ الصَّدْعِ إِنَّهُ لَقَوْلٌ فَصْلٌ وَمَا هُوَ بِالْهَزْلِ. And he swears subhanahu wa ta'ala yet again by the sky that brings on the rain, that al-Rajah, filled with rain, bringing down the rain. And he swears subhanahu wa ta'ala by the earth as it cleaves open so that green life can come up from it, which is the cycle of existence. The only reason we're alive is that rain comes from the sky and green comes from the earth, and that's how things keep on moving. And the moment that stops, everything dies. Go take a look at a desert. Why do you think a desert is a desert? It's just lack of rain. For long enough time with no rain, everything dies. Nothing's alive anymore. This cycle of life, innahu, he's swearing by this subhanahu wa ta'ala, this cycle that was continuously going on because he wills it to subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he's preserving it. This is his will. Innahu laqawlun fasl. What you just heard is the wording, al-qawl, that is fasl, meaning there is no debating this. This is the ultimate truth. This is the only truth that exists. لَقَوْلٌ فَصْلٌ. This is وَمَا هُوَ بِالْهَزْلِ. This is not a joke. There is no batil in this. There is no exaggeration in it. There's no exaggeration. Yet he began this surah by saying وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ, swearing by a najmu thaqib, by a piercing star that none of the Sahaba had ever heard of before. None of them saw a piercing star before. I even haven't. Most of us haven't. You don't even know what it is. We just understand that there are powers outside. There are stars that are so large, so huge, on a scale that where our whole solar system can fit in a corner of it. That if it was to explode and somehow that energy be directed towards us, that we would disintegrate in mere minutes. But we don't worry about that, because in kullu nafsin lamma alayha hafid. Because every nafs has a time that is going to be preserved for and protected for. So he's telling you, إِنَّهُ لَقَوْلٌ فَصْلٌ. This is the ultimate truth. وَمَا هُوَ بِالْهَزْلِ. There's no joke in this. Understand it clearly. Why? إِنَّهُمْ, because here's why. إِنَّهُمْ يَكِيدُونَ كَيْدًا وَأَكِيدُ كَيْدًا. Because every living thing, everyone that you're dealing with, and in the Prophet ﷺ's example, is the kafirin, is the disbelievers. يَكِيدُونَ كَيْدًا. They're coming up with a plot. They're plotting. They're planning things. وَأَكِيدُ كَيْدًا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and I also have a plan, and I also have a plot. So what do we do? As people continue to plan and to plot and come up with whatever they want to do, and you're trying to get through your life somehow, you're trying to succeed, you're trying to move yourself forward, you're trying to be as successful as possible. So here's what he says, subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمَهِّلِ الْكَافِرِينَ أَمْهِلْهُمْ رُوَيْدًا. There are two. We started Juz' Amma maybe a couple of days ago. I want you to think, if you know Juz' Amma by heart, think. From Surah Al-Naba up till this moment, how many commands were given? How many verbs that are commands were given? Think of Surah Al-Naba. When was the last command that you heard? Is there a command in Surah Al-Naba? Is there a fi'l amr in Surah Al-Naba? No, there's one. That's why I would have just said it's the first. There's one. Is there a nazi'at? Abasa, Takwir, Al-Infitar. There's one al-Mutaffifin. But it's a very general one. It's not specific. It's not a specific command. He said, وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. But it's a very generic one. It's not a specific hukum. From the beginning of Juz' Amma up to Tariq, there are no commands. It's just explanations. It's just concepts being explained. And then in Surah Al-Tariq, he gives two commands to the Prophet ﷺ. Obviously, everything he's commanded to do, ﷺ, translates immediately over to us to understand it. He's told to do two things that are different. فَمَهِّلِ الْكَافِرِينَ. مَهِّلِ الْكَافِرِينَ means tell them, convey the message of God. which is telling them that Allah is giving you time. A muhla, you have some time to figure things out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to punish you with your dhunub. فَمَهِّلِ الْكَافِرِينَ. Convey the message, which is his job, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to do. Convey the message and tell them they have time. That's the first one. The second one, وَأَمْهِلْهُمْ. And you, Ya Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, give them time. Meaning, be patient with them. وَأَمْهِلْهُمْ رُوَيْدًا. Be very slow. Be very patient. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry for people to be punished. Don't be in a hurry for people to listen and do exactly what you want them to do. People aren't going to respond to you on your time. They're going to respond to you on their time. People are going to accept what you have to say, not based on when you want them to accept what you have to say. They'll accept what you have to say on the time that they have. It's their show, it's not yours. Your job is just to convey the message. They will respond whenever they want to respond. And sometimes they won't. Sometimes they won't respond. وَأَمْهِلْهُمْ رُوَيْدًا means give them time. Give them time. They may never respond to you. Meaning you may fail. This may not work. You may go after Abu al-Hakam ibn Hisham and you may fail. You may go after Abu ibn Khalaf. You may go after your own uncle. You may go after multiple uncles and you'll fail. They won't listen. And that's just how it is. وَأَمْهِلْهُمْ رُوَيْدًا. God is giving them time and you have to give them time as well. Surah Al-Tariq encompasses all of the basic, all three elements of tawakkul within it. Explained without it being named. It's explained without being named. Without being called out, because it was called out before. But the concept is being explained. And if you understand it, then you can understand Islam, because so tawakkul is just a series of balances, almost paradoxes sometimes when you're thinking about it. What are the three elements that we take from this surah to understand? Number one, the first element of tawakkul is that you have to depend upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deep inside your heart. There has to be a general dependence inside of you. I mean, you have to understand inside the way it works, you comprehend the fact that everything is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands. That really nothing is controlled by us in terms of outcomes. We can control our choices, we can control our efforts, we can control how we perform sa'i, what we do, but outcomes and how the world actually works on a larger scale is something that is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So deep inside you know that, and you depend on Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you don't depend on anything that you're doing to actually find the result that you're looking for. إِن كُلُّ نَفْسٍ لَمَّا عَلَيْهَا حَافِظٌ. No matter how many variables, no matter how extreme, no matter how horrific some of these variables are outside, that could literally destroy us in a moment, you depend on Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're not wasting time worrying about that which you cannot change and that which you cannot control. You're not wasting time doing that, because you know that subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of that for you. And whenever time is up, well, time is up. And then you move on. And you're okay with that, because that's how it is. That's the first element of understanding the concept of tawakkul. The second one, doing your job, exhausting all of your resources, and using all of your effort, and trying your best. If you take that element out of tawakkul, it's no longer tawakkul anymore. You can give it different names, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Wishful thinking, maybe, is a nice way to go by. But it's not really tawakkul. The moment you stop doing your job, the moment you don't put your effort into this, the moment you're not understanding that فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانِ, you're not looking at what you have to look at, you don't understand where you came from, what your job is, you don't understand that one day تُبْلَ السَّرَائِرِ, everything is going to be exposed, so you better bring something that's worth being exposed, so you're not standing there embarrassed of it, so you're not ashamed of everything that you did. The moment you don't do your job, Yawm al-Qiyamah, what's inside will be exposed. And you'll see, subhanahu wa ta'ala, let's see really what you did. Let's see really what your intentions were, what your thought process was, what your understanding of the world around you was. Someone who studies really, really well for an exam, to the point they know everything, they've aced the curriculum, they know it really well. That is the person who can perform full tawakkul. And the question I usually get is, well, what's the point of doing tawakkul at that point? I already know it. See, there you go. If you can understand why you need to do tawakkul at this moment, then you understand Islam. The number of variables that can cause you still not to do well on the exam are infinite. The number of things that can go wrong are literally infinite. There's so many things that can go. There's like an infinite different number of scenarios of how you're not going to do well tomorrow. So tawakkul is the fact that you did your job to the best of your ability, you know your stuff, And deep inside you know that if I'm going to pass, it's going to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decision. If I don't, then that's His decision as well. Someone who studies nothing all year, nothing at all, and then crams it all in 12 hours before the exam, and then in the morning says, Tawakkaltu ala Allah, forgive me, to pop that little bubble of yours. That is not tawakkul. That's not how it works. That is wishful thinking, and that is actually going to take you down a very dangerous road of one day losing your faith. Because you're building it on something that is wrong. You know it's wrong. You know that this is not how tawakkul is done. So you're expecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to break all the laws of the universe just for hadratak. Somehow I'm important enough that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to break every law and change every norm in the universe just so I can pass an exam that I was too lazy to study for. That is so arrogant. That thought process is extremely arrogant, and that's not a Muslim's thought process. We are built to be humble beings, not arrogant ones. Doing your job is so important. This is what he taught, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what he did. That's when we talk about him, he said, "Jahada fillahi haqqa jihadihi." He struggled for the sake of Allah to the amount that Allah was pleased with him, to the amount that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself deserves. No one can say that about themselves. We can't say that. I can never say that about myself. No one can say that about anyone except about him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He left no way. He tried everything, alayhi salatu wasalam. He did not waste a moment trying to struggle for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trying to serve the Muslims, trying to serve the ummah, trying to do khair, trying to spread the message. The moment you don't do it, tawakkul doesn't really apply anymore. You can still make dua and hope for the best, but the concept of tawakkul is still not being practiced, which is a huge part of being a Muslim, huge part, as he explains in this surah. The last piece, not done. There's a third piece of tawakkul that's very important. فَمَهِّلِ الْكَافِرِينَ أَمْهِلْهُمْ رُوَيْدًا. You have to be okay with things not going your way. He's told alayhi salatu wasalam in two separate commands at the end of Surat Al-Tariq. Alayhi salatu wasalam is getting impatient towards the middle time of Mecca. He's getting impatient because no one's listening, and there's no good reason for them not to. And he's doing everything right. And they should at this point accept what he's saying, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but they're not. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them, no, I gave them time, and you need to give them time as well. And this may not work out the way you want. And you have to be okay with that. Ar-rida. You have to be okay with things not working out the way you want. If you're not okay with things not working out the way you want, then you haven't performed tawakkul yet. Tawakkul, it means, it's by definition, that I did my job, I know that it results in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever He dishes out for me, I'm going to be okay. I accept. If I fall flat on my face, I get up, I brush off, and I try again, and I move forward. And if it works out, then alhamdulillah, but I never give up, and I never ever object to something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me, because I am mutawakkil. I know that my matters are in His hand. In kullu nafsin. This is the beauty of this verse. In kullu nafsin lamma alayha hafiz. He is protecting you from forces in the universe that are beyond your ability to imagine. They're so strong and huge that the scales don't work anymore. Like I don't know how to describe a star that is bigger than a galaxy. I don't even know how to imagine that. I can't even estimate how big this room is to actually estimate what it means for there to be a star out there that if it exploded, it can take out the whole bloody galaxy. How is that possible? We can't control these things, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preserving you. And when you know that, you're fine. Okay, I'm here for as long as He wills me to be here, so I'm here. So I do my job well. And I'm okay with whatever He gives me, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'll move forward with life with whatever that may be. And this is key in understanding your deen as a Muslim. If you can live like that, if you can be someone who will continuously do their job, know deep inside that it's whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, you'll make dua for what you want, but He will give you whatever He wants, and you'll be okay with whatever it is He gave you, even if it's not your first choice, even if you really wanted something, but He said, no, that's not going to be for you. And that's it. And that's understanding Surat Al-Tariq, this first tool. So now you're open. Amma will open your toolkit and will insert 7 tools that you'll carry as a Muslim in your life. You carry them, you'll be fine. The first tool, you're going to carry tawakkul. You're going to understand what it means. You're going to practice it properly. And that's going to change the way you live. Wallahi, it's a huge difference between Muslim and non-Muslim, regardless of what faith they carry, is the fact that they're able to perform tawakkul. They understand it very clearly. It's a paradox to others, but it's very clear to us. We have no problem with it. We know that it's all in His hands. I have to do my job and be okay with the natija, okay with the result. And if you do that, then things will work out. I hope that is of benefit. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين جزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله فيكم.